Hello, my name is Corbin Irwin, and this is a presentation about storage devices for CYB 515 at Grand Canyon University. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between the file structures in Linux and Windows, and which one I prefer from a business perspective. We're also going to talk about enterprise network storage solutions, and then we're going to talk about the Christian perspective and ethics, and how those apply to business making decisions, specifically with storage devices for enterprise network solutions. So Windows versus Linux, what's similar, what's different? Let's talk about the similarities. They both use a hierarchical file system structure. So there's organization from the top down. We're going to see an example of that in a second. They both can use a master block record on IBM machines. They both have a graphic user interface to make it easier for the user to interact with files. They both use file directories. Windows and Linux both can have problems with disk fragmentation. So let's talk about differences. Differences in Windows. It primarily uses FAT and NTFS file systems. Linux can use many different file systems depending on the distribution, such as the ext family and Minix. Windows uses lettering systems for disks such as C, D, and E, and then a folder system underneath. Linux uses a root system, where you're going to see root and different variations. Linux allows files to have the same name, such as hello, all lowercase, and hello with a capital H. Windows does not. Windows sees devices peripherals as devices, and Linux sees them as files. Here's an example of some of these things. Picture 1 shows the different file systems. In Linux, you can see that there is clearly a root system, where all the disks are broken down into different root bases. And then on Windows, you can see C, D, and J as the names of the different drives. Picture 2 shows several of the differences we talked about, but it does talk a little bit more about admin rights and then the home directories. For example, the My Documents is the home directory default for Windows, and then home/username is the directory which Linux has. So is there a winner? In my opinion, yes. I think Windows is a clear winner for a couple of different reasons. Number 1, fewer file structures make compatibility higher. Makes it easier to integrate with multiple devices. There's fewer releases of Windows, which keeps confusion out of things. For example, with Linux, you might be getting a distribution that has a completely different file structure. Windows is what people are mostly used to, so they're used to the file structure. It doesn't cost money to retrain them. And the desktop experience, in my opinion, is a better one when managing files. Now let's talk about enterprise storage solutions. Some of the options that we picked were network attached storage. Network attached storage is a solution that connects to a network. It allows data to both be received and sent. It's a solution that can host multiple drives and allows storage of all types. Some of its pros: it's cheaper when compared to other solutions. It connects directly to the network and it can have great speeds. It is able to scale easily because it's on-site and you can add more drives to it. It allows people to access the files at the same time, multiple people to access the same files. It can be kept completely offline, which can be a big pro, or you can use it with VPN access so that someone can connect to it off-site remotely. Some of its cons: NAS servers are limited by bandwidth, so if you have a lot of users in one location, it might slow it down. It's also located on-site, so there is on-site security to be considered. And there's no extra backup, so you might have to use a third party to get additional backups. Cloud storage is offered remotely. It's through web-based providers, and the files can be accessed anywhere that you have internet. Some big vendors are Amazon, Alibaba, Google. Pros for that: it can be accessed anywhere. No initial cost or setup fees. It can have multiple backups in multiple locations, and it's easy to scale as you change. Some cons: file access is lost without internet connectivity. Costs can be higher over time. Can't physically locate and secure the servers, and there can be concerns about security and privacy with your data. You don't have full control. It's difficult to switch services too. Once you're locked in with someone, you might have to stay with them because it's difficult to migrate. And then there are long-term contracts to think of as well. So, Christianity and ethics. Now that we've talked about a couple different solutions and file structures, let's talk about how Christianity and ethics apply to this. Let's read Luke 14:28. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Clearly, we can see that Christians are called to make good decisions, informed decisions. And as professionals, we have that same calling. Using the Christian ethic, we should be aware of the cost of a project. We should consider those costs and make sure it's not going to be too much of a burden on the company. So ethically, there needs to be consideration of what best benefits the company and what's the best use of its money. Christians are called in Matthew 7:12 to do unto others as we want them to do unto us. We need to think of other people's money and company money as our own. We need to be good stewards of it because in all reality, everything is God's, and we need to be a good steward of the things that He's given us. We should always do our best to ensure that all solutions are cost effective and the best solution. We should do our due diligence and exhaust all creative plans. We need to be very careful in how we spend money. God has called us to do this, and we need to have good planning, be very diligent in how we plan, and pick the solutions that best fit our company. Here are my references. Thank you for your time, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day.